All right. Welcome, everyone. What do you guys think of this great movie studio? Awesome. So for those of you whom I haven't met, my name is Eli Fisher. I run the product management, UX design, and technical writing teams at Amazon that are working on the OpenSearch project. We've got a lot of stuff we're going to cover today, so I'm really looking forward to today's agenda. We're going to be going over many OpenSearch topics, and we got a lot of fun planned for today. Now, before we get into the main sessions, let's do a quick Reader's Digest of where OpenSearch has gone since launch. Early on, we saw OpenSearch become more relevant in the online conversation for search and analytics. For the first 6 months, we would discover people and organizations talking about OpenSearch before we even knew that they were interested in using it. In many cases, we'd find out they had already adopted OpenSearch, and we were thrilled to hear about their story. Not being able to keep up with all of the online conversation around OpenSearch is a pretty good problem to have, and it was one of the first indicators that we were seeing rapid and sustainable growth. But there were other early signs of momentum. Just in our first 6 months, 19 partners joined the project. Community contributions like Arch Linux support and the OpenSearch plugin template began rolling in. Project downloads surpassed 1.4 million, and there were several releases, including 3 within 1 week to patch the Log4j issues. And a lot has happened since those early days. We've seen project momentum continue to accelerate and OpenSearch become more feature-rich with dozens of new features providing more and more functionality to builders worldwide. And this momentum can be clearly seen in the project data. OpenSearch now has 40 partners, with more joining on a near weekly basis. The GitHub repos for OpenSearch and OpenSearch dashboards have over 6,000 stars between them. There have been more than 400 contributions from outside of Amazon this year alone. 10,000 pull requests have been merged, and the project has now surpassed 50 million downloads. Now, don't just take our word for it. Let's take a look at what others are thinking about OpenSearch. Let's take DB Engines as an example. We joined the DB Engines rankings back in March just to see how we would stack up. And within 6 months, we have made it into the top 5 leaderboard for the search engine category. Now, behind all of these numbers are the community of contributors that are making OpenSearch happen. Our contributors are turning into maintainers, and they are stepping up to solve hard problems and build innovative features. Features like Lucene-level concurrent search, a production-ready Kubernetes operator, and delivering many language clients so that people can use OpenSearch with their language of choice. And this is just the start. We're here today to celebrate all of the progress that we've made together. We're seeing dozens of users and people attend our community meetings. We're seeing contributions come in from all around the world, and we're only seeing this momentum continue to accelerate. In fact, a number of our partners have already launched managed OpenSearch services across a range of cloud providers like AWS, Azure, Oracle, and Google Cloud. I credit the community with keeping us honest and following the OpenSearch principles of development. Your feedback, participation, and contributions across the project allow us to deliver on our mission in a way we wouldn't be able to otherwise. This has helped us open up the project lifecycle and create great partnerships with the open source world at large. Take our partnership with Dattell as an example. Dattell is a growing search technology company that provides a broad range of consulting services. Dattell is an example of one partner in our thriving partner program. They were an early adopter of OpenSearch, and they are committed to supporting users who are moving to OpenSearch. As such, Dattell is a content contributor to the project, and we are mutually invested in each other's success. That is why I'm excited to introduce you all to Maria Hatfield, the company's co-founder. Maria is here today to talk to you more about what their journey was like onboarding to the OpenSearch project. Maria has a strong background in analytics, to say the least. Her graduate research has revolved around analytics, data modeling for scientific research. And she's become an expert in a number of search technologies as a result. So everyone, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Maria Hatfield.
Thank you, Eli. I'm going to be talking about why our clients are choosing OpenSearch. 3 primary reasons come up again and again. It's money, security out of the box, and licensing. So I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking a little more about each of those 3, and then spend the majority of my time going through 2 client stories. Firstly is money, and this is a fun one because it aligns with both management and DevOps engineers, and I'm sure there's some DevOps folks here today. So with management, they're excited for their budget. The OpenSearch has no licensing fees. And with DevOps, we found that when folks have experience with OpenSearch, it actually increases their earning potential and their job security and job options because they become more valuable to companies. With security, OpenSearch comes with a plugin that has a full suite of security that most of our clients are going to need. It includes access control for centralized user management, including for LDAP and OpenID. It includes authentication, and then also audit logging, which is important for our clients that have compliance concerns. And then lastly is licensing. As you know, OpenSearch is licensed under the Apache 2.0 license. This is an extremely permissive license, so our clients don't need to worry about incorporating OpenSearch into their products or white labeling it or anything else they might want to do with it. All right, let's move into 2 client stories. And I picked these 2 in particular because they're very different companies, but for both of them, OpenSearch was the correct choice. So for the first one on the left here, it was a Fortune 500 company. They have 20,000 employees, multinational, $30 billion a year in revenue, huge company. They had an existing project that they were running with Splunk. And it was costing them $10 million a year in licensing fees. And they decided they wanted to migrate that existing project over to OpenSearch. And the second client I'm going to talk about is a technology company. 150 employees, much smaller, $20 million a year in revenue, and they were starting a brand new project, and they decided to run that one in OpenSearch. Based on what we built for them, if they were to go with a paid licensed product instead, it would cost them about $2 million per year in licensing. Here's an overview of that Fortune 500 company's data set. It was application data, text-based, 80 terabytes of data per day they were pulling in. They had to store it for 1 month, the first week in hot storage, and then it moved to a cooler storage until it could be deleted at the end of the month. They had a decent-sized support team, 6 engineers in the US, an additional support team in India. They didn't have any experience with OpenSearch, but they did have some experience with database management with other databases. They chose OpenSearch for 3 primary reasons. The first was money. As I mentioned, they were spending $10 million a year with Splunk, so drop that down to 0. Licensing was important because they were incorporating it into their product, and then their use case was a perfect fit, text searching and aggregation. They had a couple of reservations. Limited documentation, and OpenSearch is a newer product. Working with them, we were able to allay those concerns and also help them to move confidently through the product, through the migration. A couple issues arose during the migration and setting up OpenSearch. The first was setting up security. And specifically with this, it was with their access control. The centralized user management system they were using was having issues. And we actually worked directly with that vendor to resolve that issue. A second thing that came up was with Kubernetes. The program they were using to mount disks for OpenSearch to read from and write to was having issues in Kubernetes. Specifically, sometimes the disks would just disappear, and this would cause OpenSearch to crash. And we resolved that issue for them by updating to the latest version of that software, the mounting software, and then also changing the file system. We helped them with a number of things along the way. The first and very important one was setting expectations with management. This was around how long the project would take, what kind of internal resources we need, how much it would cost, and what they could expect for with performance with the resultant product. We helped them with training. As I mentioned, they didn't have experience with OpenSearch. We also helped them with hardware purchases, and this is a big one. Anytime we're working with a new client and they haven't purchased hardware yet, we tell them not to until the engagement begins. Because we've been down this road a whole bunch of times. We know which hardware is going to impact performance and which won't. Based on what they provided to us initially for what they wanted to purchase hardware-wise, and our edited version of the hardware, we saved them close to $1 million. So we more than paid for ourselves just by helping them with hardware purchases. And just to reiterate this, we weren't decreasing the performance of OpenSearch. We were buying all the hardware they needed for maximum performance. We were just helping them not waste money on superfluous products. We also helped with a sense of ownership on the engineering team that was going to be engaged in this project, helped them with troubleshooting, of course, along the way, and then setting up external monitoring. And today they're doing great. Their entire production is moved over to OpenSearch. They're saving that $10 million a year on licensing fees. And both the engineers and management are happy with their experience with OpenSearch and that they're using it today. Let's run through the tech company now. They're a little different. They had highly sensitive personal records, text-based, 2 terabytes a day. They had to meet HIPAA requirements. They had to store the data for 2 years, and they were also interested in fast query returns under 200 milliseconds. They had a smaller team, 3 engineers, no experience with OpenSearch, very little experience with database management in general, and very little experience with Linux. They chose OpenSearch for money, no licensing fees. Security was an important one. The plugin that comes with OpenSearch includes all the requirements needed to meet HIPAA standards, which was a must for them. And that's right out of the box with the OpenSearch plugin. And then the licensing was important because it was going to be a client-facing product. They wanted to be able to white label it. Similar reservations to before. We see these again and again. Limited documentation, new product. Working with us, we give them the confidence to move forward and the support they needed for a successful project. Few issues arose. First was with setting up security. And this is going to happen when you have a strict compliance like HIPAA. It's just a labor-intensive process to make sure that all of the compliance requirements are met. The second was with employee retention on our client side. Throughout the project, we worked with 4 different engineers, lead engineers on their team, because of employee turnover. So our team ended up being the constant driving force, moving the product forward as they got new employees and they needed to be onboarded and trained and get buy-in for the project. And then lastly was getting management to embrace a new operating system, Linux, and a new software, OpenSearch. It took a lot of soft skills to help them feel comfortable with that change and with the process. So we helped them in a number of ways. As I mentioned, it was an inexperienced team, so we trained them on OpenSearch, Kafka, Ansible, and Linux. Everything from OpenSearch, from transforming and loading data, how to update and maintain OpenSearch. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, they needed fast query returns under 200 milliseconds. So a big piece of making that happen is properly structuring messages and indices. And then also for preventative maintenance long-term, how to identify issues and run preventative maintenance. And then, as I mentioned, we really drove that product building through employee turnover. And today they're doing great. They're using OpenSearch for a first-of-its-kind data view for their clients and their industry. They are also working on machine learning for anomaly detection and prediction using those data sets. And both engineers and management are happy with their decision to use OpenSearch. So that brings me back to why are our clients using OpenSearch? It's the money, it's the security out of the box, and it's the licensing. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Maria. All right, so as we mentioned earlier, OpenSearch feature velocity has sped up considerably. One of the key areas that we are working on with the community is being able to see all of your data through a single pane of glass. Now, this is really important and particularly useful for operational analytics, where you might want to combine logs, traces, and metrics. And we're not alone in this effort. Look at Logs.io. They have built a really successful security analytics and observability suite. They're using OpenSearch as the log engine to power their business, and OpenSearch dashboards as the data visualization tool. One of the most interesting things about Logs.io is they've done a ton of great customization to OpenSearch dashboards to meet their business goals. But they haven't stopped there. Long term, we would both like to see observability and observability tools become a hallmark feature of OpenSearch. And because observability is critical to Logs.io, they've been active contributors and were one of our launch partners. Our next speaker has been an invaluable contributor to the OpenSearch project. Jonah Kowall is the CTO of Logs.io, and beyond his role as the CTO of Logs.io, he's a leader, a research analyst, and a frequent contributor to open source observability projects. His team has adopted OpenSearch from both a user and a partner perspective, and they continue to help us innovate. Here to talk about Logs.io, observability, and OpenSearch, let's all welcome Jonah Kowall.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for the kind words and the wonderful intro, Eli. And I first wanted to thank the community and especially the team that is running the product for OpenSearch and helping manage all of the work that goes into running the community. It's a very big undertaking, takes a lot of effort, and we all see the benefit of the work that goes into it. So thank you to many of you that are here, and appreciate this wonderful event and getting us all together. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my background and some of the work I've done. I come from a background of security and production operations. I've done a lot of different things through my career, and I spent some time as an analyst at Gartner analyzing and understanding observability and monitoring and how we deal with production data for security and operational use cases. I've been working in startups for the last several years at Logs.io and previously at a network analytics company. And that's a little bit on my background. I'll talk how we contribute and work with open source communities and why OpenSearch is so important to us. So first of all, a little intro as to what we do. Eli gave a great summary, but our goal as a company is to bring together security and operational data using the best open source tools out there. We started out in log management. Our founders had a vision of how do I make Elk a SaaS, easy to use product so that engineers can get started and do this easily. That was 7 or 8 years ago, long before there were really good options there. And so we've expanded upon that from going from log analytics into security with our SIM product, built on top of log analytics with a bunch of new features. And then more recently, we've moved into metrics with Prometheus and Grafana, and into distributed tracing, leveraging Jaeger. So the idea is we want to provide the experience of open source without the pain of managing or scaling it. And obviously with amazing support and help along the way. That's really what we do and what we provide in the platform. So when Eli talked about the vision of unification, this is what we want to do in open source. And we don't want to build it in a proprietary way. We want everyone to be able to use this in the community, because the things that you get in commercial expensive products should be available to all of us in open source. So the vision of taking something like OpenSearch dashboards and really making it the cornerstone of the way that you do analytics across structured and unstructured data, along with metrics and tracing, is really the vision that we have and what we want to see. So a little bit just background on the company. We're about 250 employees currently. We have about 1,300 customers. Headquarters are in Tel Aviv, but we're quite distributed as well. We work with a lot of large companies, similar to some of the other speakers here at the keynote. A lot of them really trust us to run high-scale log analytics, metrics, and distributed tracing. And we're a distributed team. We like to contribute to these projects. We really see the viability of the community as something that's really important to the adoption and understanding of these open source technologies. So a few things that we do is, aside from contributing to OpenSearch and definitely working hard on some of the new features that are coming out, we've actually migrated our entire infrastructure across AWS and Azure onto OpenSearch completely. So this is many thousands of nodes of OpenSearch that are running in production. We also actually are an early adopter of Graviton, so we run our AWS workload on ARM, so that's been a big benefit to us. One of our biggest concerns as a business and for our customers is cost. You heard that before. The reason companies come to us is not just because of open source, but because it's more cost effective the way that we run it. We're all multi-tenant, meaning we run shared infrastructure, high-scale systems, and we have a lot of unique features. This enables us to offer these solutions at a fraction of the cost of commercial tools. So for us, some of the great contributions and the work that's going on in the community around tiered storage, lower cost ways to retain data for longer periods of time are absolutely critical to our business. And these are some of our biggest priorities, both us internally and what our customers want to see. How do I make it cheaper to keep 6 months of data searchable? These are the kinds of problems that we really need to solve, is reducing that cost. We have a lot of different capabilities in that area to reduce cost. Aside from that, what we also do is we contribute quite a bit, and we're one of the early adopters of OpenTelemetry. This is another really important open source project that makes it easy to collect data from applications. It's the second busiest project in the CNCF behind Kubernetes. So there are thousands of companies contributing to it. It's a very large community. We do a lot of work on it. We want to see better interoperability between OpenSearch and OpenTelemetry. It's in the best interest of our customers and the community. The other thing is that we're the main contributor to Jaeger, and it's a project that I spend a lot of time on personally. Jaeger is a distributed tracing product that's part of the CNCF. Those of you that are going to KubeCon, I'll be doing the Jaeger maintainer talk. I'm happy to talk about tracing and Jaeger. It's probably one of my favorite topics to discuss, and very top of mind in observability. And finally, for those that are interested in observability, we always have great leaders coming on to talk in our Open Observability podcast. You can get it on Twitch, YouTube, Spotify, you name it, it's on there. We invite people around the community, so those of you that are contributing or are part of the open source community, definitely get in touch. We'd like to have you on. It's a very informal chat, usually about 45 minutes. We cover a lot of topics, and it's a great place to go and hear about up-and-coming cool open source projects in observability and just kind of what's happening in the community. So definitely take advantage of that It's a great podcast that myself and a colleague run. So I did want to talk a little bit about OpenSearch and our adoption more specifically. First, the partnership, once again, has been fantastic. It's amazing to have a partner that works with us where we can contribute and we can feel like we're part of a community, something that we did not have in the past with our prior database, let's call it. It's been a challenge. And so for us, we really believe in Apache 2 licensed software. It's better for the community. No one owns it technically, so this is the right way to run an open source project. We really wanted to make sure that there was governance at the beginning of the project. So while the team was working on basic things like how we package and release software as a community, we really wanted to see more governance around the project. So we probably got a little bit ahead of ourselves in demanding that type of thing from the community. Realistically, it happened slowly over time. We wanted to see it immediately because we were concerned that there would be a, let's call it bait and switch, which was definitely not the case. Now you see contributors from multiple companies and folks running the project. So it's really actually worked out very well, but it took a little bit longer, which is fine. And so I think the governance will come. I mean, ultimately, we would like to see something as important as OpenSearch being part of a software foundation. This assures that it's always open for everyone. That's why we love Kubernetes, that's why we love Prometheus, that's why we love Jaeger, is because we know these are always going to be community projects and they're overseen by nonprofits. It's super important in open source because it assures longevity of a project. And so, the product management that the team has put forward, I think, has been invaluable. They're always available, they're reaching out, they're trying to get us involved in new initiatives. So it's a very big difference because in open source that I work in, it's a bunch of contributors trying to manage the project. And frankly, we've all got day jobs and work to do. So having dedicated product managers for OpenSearch, I think, makes a huge difference. It's a really big value add, and we're lucky to have these passionate people working on the project. So just thanks once again. It's been really amazing. So as I mentioned before, warm storage is absolutely key to our business. How do we use object storage? How do we make things cheaper? How do we make our clusters faster? Moving to Graviton, we were able to actually reduce costs on our side about 30% on the compute side. That's a huge business value add for us. It allows us to pass that savings on to customers and provides for flexibility. But getting object storage across our AWS and Azure environments, I think, is super key for us. So we're excited to see the work the team is doing on that. And obviously, we're willing to do the work on Azure because that's one of the things that we have as a requirement. We've also rebuilt our front end on OpenSearch dashboards, and we've built everything in plugins. And we have some new capabilities coming out as plugins as well. This makes upgrading easier. It's still not as easy as we want to see it, but it's making big strides towards that. We also have a lot of challenges upgrading our back end because of the many thousands of nodes that we run. Really upgrading those clusters, having zero downtime, just manageability for us is a big thing that we're contributing to and that we would like to see improvements in. So as I mentioned before, the vision-wise, the piece that I see as a big opportunity to unify observability is around Prometheus and time series data. Today, the de facto UI is not licensed in an Apache 2 way. It's Grafana. It's a user interface we all use to analyze time series. I believe there's a great opportunity for us to take OpenSearch dashboards and allow it to analyze Prometheus data, which will create an Apache 2 front end to do that work. And I think the community needs it. And certainly the CNCF wants to see Apache 2 projects working together. So I think it has a lot of benefits. And we really want to see the observability plugin, which is an amazing piece of technology and there's been great innovation, come further forward to analyze additional types of data. So we're super excited to see that happen, and we're excited to roll out more and more plugins from OpenSearch to our customer base. And I think that's about it. So I appreciate everyone's time, and I'll be here to discuss tonight and throughout the day. And thanks again to the OpenSearch team for putting this together and making this project a success.
Thanks, good job. Thanks, Jonah. All right, so while the OpenSearch project continues to innovate, it's really important to keep in mind that the beating heart of any open source project is the community. On this front, we are beginning to see more and more people become serial contributors to OpenSearch. One such organization is Aiven. The engineers at Aiven have been active participants in the OpenSearch project on a near daily basis. This has come in the form of bug fixes, code reviews, and even introducing features like the Lucene-level concurrent search. This is why one of their engineers was the first to become a maintainer on the OpenSearch repo in GitHub outside of the Amazon organization. On that note, I'm very excited to introduce you all to Laysa Uchoa. She is a developer advocate for Aiven, a PyLadies Munich leader, and a wonderful all-around open source steward. Laysa is here to talk about the importance of open source communities, Aiven's philosophy on open source, and how they became involved in OpenSearch. So everyone, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Laysa Uchoa.
So hello everyone, my name is Laysa Uchoa. I'll be talking today about navigating OpenSearch through its community. A little bit about me. So I already say my name is Laysa Uchoa. I work for Aiven as the developer advocate. And at Aiven, actually, we do our best to manage open sources databases for you. And in a side note, a little bit about me. I happen to live in the beautiful city of Munich in Germany, and I love Python programming language. So I organize a community called PyLadies Munich. I really love community, and today I would like to talk about the OpenSearch community. To navigate through the OpenSearch project, actually I will start to take an example from the point of view of a company. So I will do this talking about Aiven and how we foster open source culture as well, especially around the OpenSearch project. We love open source. Our founders are actually contributors of OpenSearch project, and we not only love it, we actually have a lot of initiatives internal that I hope can get you some inspiration and you can bring to your company. So one of the first things I will talk about is a program called the Plankton program. So I don't know if you know what plankton are. They are organisms which live under the ocean, and they produce 50% or more of the oxygen that we are all breathing. So they are quite nice. The same as plankton are important for the life in Earth. I would say also individual contributions are as well very important for open source projects. But as you know, a lot of those contributions, they are made on people's free time. So actually they don't get paid for that. But at Aiven, if you are an Aivener, you actually get economically reward when you contribute to open source project outside your work. So it's quite nice to have this kind of recognition or motivation. But maybe you'll be wondering, but how about having people working full-time in open sources project? For example, even for the OpenSearch project. We have something called the Open Source Program Office, which is a team of highly experts who are working all the time to maintain our own open source projects and also to maintain the open source projects that we use at our company. And they are also responsible for fostering the OpenSearch culture with our company, so they are quite cool. But even as a company, you can't do everything alone. You need partners. And at Aiven, we do value partnership with other companies and with other projects, especially with open source projects. So we were the first ones who became, since the beginning, partners of the OpenSearch project. So it's quite nice. Has all those initiatives, we actually are very proud that we have many maintainers in the OpenSearch project. One of the maintainers is Andre. He's here today, and he's the first maintainer outside Amazon. And we also have maintainer in the OpenSearch Python client, and we also maintain plugins for the OpenSearch project. But now I talked about how companies, or at least how any company can become part of the open source community and contribute positively. But how about you as an individual? How you can get started contributing, for example, to the OpenSearch project? So there are many ways that you can do that, and I will show you some today. One way is through code. Many of you can go there. If you see, you can open a pull request. If you see something that you want to fix it, you can open an issue or a pull request, and you can also comment. So one of the ways I would say is through the open source projects, through code. But it's not only that. A lot of people don't know that there are many ways that you can contribute to open source projects. And for example, this is specific for OpenSearch, you can also join the community meetings. They have regular meetings where you can go there. If you are OpenSearch expert, you can go there and help others. If you are learning OpenSearch, you can also go there and ask questions and learn from others. And also they have a nice forum, which you can go there and ask questions, because sometimes if you don't know something and you ask questions, sometimes it's someone else asks questions as well, and it impacts other people in their way of learning. And you can also contribute maybe with technical writing. It's always needed. And also if you are building something cool with OpenSearch, you can share it. And you can also contribute for design, for example. There are many things that a project such as OpenSearch can benefit from your contribution. But maybe now you may be wondering, how does it feel to start to contribute to open source projects? So when you pick a project, normally you like the project because you're doing this in your free time. So your first thing, you open, for example, a pull request, and you're very excited about it, and you go there with your contribution. And you start getting reviews. So someone asks you, can you fix something? And you fix it, and so on. But sometimes people start asking you for you to do some fixes that are not so clear from the project point of view. What are the minimum requirements? For example, they can ask like, please, can you run this formatter? And you're like, okay, this formatter is nowhere to be seen for outsiders, but for some reason, it's what the project uses, and so on. And they can even ask you to change the way you commit, and so on. So all those things can be very overwhelming when you are starting contributing to open source projects. Gladly, for the OpenSearch project, we have something that I would call has automagically. So the OpenSearch project has an automagically way of doing things. And I'll explain to you what does that mean. When you start contributing to the OpenSearch project, you will see something like this. You actually will have it very clear what are the, you have some automated checks that will check your code for you and will do some maintenance like really good. So You won't see people comment. You most likely, when you have your code there, you will see some sort of report. And this is really good, because when you are welcoming new contributors, you don't want that they feel overwhelmed. You actually want that they feel welcoming. And in this way, they already know what are the minimum requirements for this project. They also will keep your build green, and they will be more relieved to contribute because, of course, it won't break, and will avoid a lot of waste of time between back and forth, discussing things that are just the minimal requirements. And it's also good for maintainers because they don't need to go there and explain things in a manual way. It will be automatically, and it's not them saying that, it's a robot saying that, so it's the code. So this is quite nice, and it would avoid also burnout of the maintainers. And especially for a project such as OpenSearch, that there are new contributors every day, you want to make your contributors to know what are the minimum requirements to merge something. So this is, I would say, automatically way of doing things for OpenSearch. But you may be wondering, how can you get in touch with the OpenSearch community, or how can you be part of it? So they are basically everywhere in social media, but here are some of them. I put at Meetup because they have regular meetups, but in case you miss a meetup, you can go to the YouTube and find the videos there. I also put Twitter because, yeah, it's very nice social media. And if you are, for example, building something with OpenSearch, why not tweet about or let others know what you are building? And from your point of view also, you don't need to, you can, maybe if you are on Twitter, you can get to know what are the projects doing, for example, change of logs, new features, and so on. So it's quite nice. And there is also the forum, where you can meet other people there, maintainers, and ask questions, and so on. So I would say this is a quite nice way of being part of. And we saw it today, how the OpenSearch community is really special. And there is an advantage for you to be part of a community because it's a support network where you, as a professional, you can grow. But also, you can, while you grow, you help others to grow. And today I want to say thank you if you are contributing to the OpenSearch project. And if you are not, I hope this gives you some motivation to be out there. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Laysa. Everyone, why don't we give another big thank you to all of our speakers this morning. So we covered a lot this morning. We talked about how OpenSearch has continued to grow with the community. We've heard directly from partners about their journeys with the project. And you've heard me say this before, and you'll likely hear me say this again, because I think it bears repeating. OpenSearch has only been able to come as far as it has because of the incredible efforts of you, the community. I and my team feel so fortunate to be able to spend time with you today, and we hope that the stories that you heard this morning will serve as catalysts for conversations about what we can accomplish together. These stories offer an exciting glimpse into how OpenSearch is solving real problems for real people. And this community focus will drive everything that we do as we work toward a future where OpenSearch is the best search and analytics suite on the planet. So, with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming. Let's get this conference started.